He felt both angry and humiliated when he found out that his wife's escapades with the neighbor's gardener and a few construction workers had become the talk of the neighborhood. Hey there, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into another shocking real-life story that proves truth is often stranger than fiction. This one has a bizarre twist, but, as you'd expect, it eventually landed in court. The story comes from Manipur, a region in India, which happens to be the 7th largest country in the world. At the center of it all is a beautiful wife with 2 kids and a handsome husband who has a steady, respectable job. Sounds like a picture-perfect family, right? Unfortunately, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. As it turns out, the wife had been unfaithful, and not just recently. Her behavior reportedly dated back to when she was still working. Eventually, she was caught in the act, exercising some questionable activities with the neighbor's gardener and 2 foremen, all in her own room. So what's the full story behind this scandal? Let's dig deeper and find out. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you enjoy it, share it with your friends. It helps us a lot. Now let's get into it. This is the story of Kavya, a beautiful woman born in 1988 in Tinsukia, Assam, India. Kavya wasn't just stunning. She was also brilliant. She graduated as one of the top students at her college and later landed a job as a back-office employee at a private bank in Manipur. She quickly excelled there and was even named one of the best employees of the year. In 2011, a friend introduced Kavya to Rayansh, a man 2 years older than her. Rayansh worked for an international medical equipment manufacturing company and was a bit on the quiet, geeky side. Despite his reserved nature, Rayansh came from a wealthy family. The two hit it off and tied the knot in July 2012. At the time, Rayansh was 26 and Kavya was 24. Their marriage started off strong. They settled in an upscale neighborhood in Dibrugarh, and Rayansh supported Kavya's decision to continue working after their wedding. In 2014, they were blessed with a beautiful daughter, and by mid-2015, their family grew with the arrival of a baby boy. For months after her son was born, Kavya returned to her job, while her in-laws and a babysitter cared for the kids. Kavya was still as radiant as ever. She maintained her youthful, slim figure through regular exercise and a healthy lifestyle, complete with balanced meals and proper sleep. But things took a turn in early 2016 when a young man named Nikhil joined her branch at the bank. At 27, Nikhil was charming and undeniably handsome, and he quickly took notice of Kavya's beauty. At first, he couldn't believe she was married with 2 kids. His friends had to convince him. Undeterred, Nikhil began flirting with Kavya. To his surprise, she didn't just brush him off. In fact, she reciprocated, and soon the two were entangled in a secret relationship outside of office hours. Kavya began spending more and more time with Nikhil, often coming home late with excuses like work meetings, last-minute client calls, or tasks that couldn't wait. Rayansh, however, grew suspicious. Things didn't add up, so he reached out to one of Kavya's coworkers. That's when he discovered the truth. There had been no late meetings or urgent tasks. In fact, Kavya could leave work as early as 4 p.m. most days. Determined to find out the truth, Rayansh began investigating on his own. It wasn't long before he caught Kavya with Nikhil at a lodge about 5 kilometers from her office. Furious and heartbroken, Rayansh wanted to end their marriage right then and there. But when he thought about their young children and his demanding job, which often required travel, he decided to try mediation instead. Both families came together, and after much discussion, Rayansh and Kavya agreed to reconcile under strict conditions. Kavya had to quit her job, stay off social media, and give up her cell phone for an entire year. She also had to focus on taking care of the kids full-time. Everyone agreed, and by 2017, Rayansh sold their home and moved the family to an elite residential area in Manipur to start fresh. The housing complex where Rayansh and Kavya live is still under construction. With only about 35% of the houses occupied, the rest of the area is filled with ongoing construction projects. Despite this, the neighborhood already feels lively, with plenty of neighbors, mini-markets, schools, playgrounds, and even offices. Since 2019, after their previous babysitter returned home, the family hired a new helper named Menya. She's 31 years old and doesn't specialize in babysitting, but she helps with cooking and cleaning. With Kavya no longer working, she takes care of their two kids, who are now 5 and 4, while Menya handles the rest of the household chores. Rayansh and Kavya's relationship has also taken a turn for the better. Rayansh frequently surprises her with spontaneous dinner dates and even stays at fancy hotels to keep the romance alive. He seems to understand how stunning Kavya is and goes the extra mile to make her feel cherished. For her part, Kavya has become more devoted to her family, focusing on raising the kids and staying grounded. She's even gotten used to staying off her phone, though Rayansh has told her it's fine to use social media again. Kavya only logs into Facebook or Instagram occasionally to greet friends and family. By early 2021, as the pandemic eased, Rayansh started taking on more international assignments. His work took him to places like Singapore and Brunei, with trips lasting 2 to 3 weeks at a time. But since he trusted Kavya completely, he always left with peace of mind. During this time, their helper Menya started seeing Harsh, a foreman working on the construction in the complex. Harsh was 7 years younger than her, but it seemed Menya liked the idea of dating a younger man. At first, they'd just hang out on the terrace. Eventually, Harsh started coming inside, joining Menya in the dining room. Kavya didn't mind and even asked them once, "Are you two dating?" They shyly replied, "Just friends." A few weeks later, Menya brought another man to the terrace, this time Rishabh, a 24-year-old construction supervisor working on a different section of the neighborhood. He didn't know Harsh, but that didn't seem to bother Menya. Kavya noticed the two getting close but didn't interfere. They're all single, she thought. As long as nothing inappropriate happens at home or in front of the kids, it's fine. Not long after, Menya was spotted chatting with a gardener named Ishan near the house. It wasn't clear what their relationship was, but Menya's playful and flirty behavior around him made Kavya shake her head in amusement. Over time, Menya's revolving door of visitors, whether it was Harsh, Rishabh, or Ishan, became a regular occurrence. Her male friends often brought snacks and ice cream, which Kavya's kids loved. The children even started warming up to the construction workers and gardeners, enjoying the little treats they'd bring when they came to visit Menya. By early August 2021, Menya asked to take a week off to visit her village. Kavya's mother-in-law approved, as Menya had been working for over a year without any time off. Around this time, Rayansh was traveling frequently to Singapore for a project installing medical devices in a hospital, leaving Kavya at home with the kids. A week went by, and Menya didn't return. Her phone number wasn't working either, which raised concerns for Kavya. Adding to the confusion, the foreman and gardeners who had been friendly with Menya started showing up at Kavya's house, asking about her whereabouts. Kavya found herself chatting with them about Menya, even exchanging phone numbers since she'd known them for months and felt it was harmless. Fast forward to mid-November 2021. A woman named Mira, 51, and her 16-year-old daughter Sneha showed up in the neighborhood. They were overseeing renovations on a house nearby. Mira was upset when she discovered one of her workers, a 26-year-old named Varun, wasn't at the job site. When she asked where he was, another worker casually replied, "Oh, he's not skipping work, ma'am. He's just at his girlfriend's house, Block D, the front house." Frustrated, Mira and Sneha headed to the house in question, which turned out to be Kavya's. The door was closed, but they decided to step through the gate and walk around to the side yard, assuming Varun might be in the kitchen with the maid. As they passed a window with partially open curtains, they froze in shock. There was Varun, and he wasn't with Menya. He was making out with Kavya. Stunned, Mira and Sneha quickly left without confronting anyone. Although Mira didn't know Kavya personally, she was certain the woman she saw wasn't the maid. It had to be the lady of the house. Curious and angry, Mira asked the housing management about the occupants of the house. She learned that it belonged to Rayansh and Kavya, and when shown a picture of Kavya, she confirmed it was the same woman she'd seen with Varun. Determined to take action, Mira demanded Rayunsh's phone number from the management office. Initially, they refused, but Mira threatened to report the incident to the police, claiming strange activities were happening in the neighborhood. Reluctantly, they gave her the number. Mira called Rayunsh and told him everything she had witnessed. She even suggested he check any home surveillance cameras if they had them. Alarmed, Rayunsh immediately cut his trip short and returned to Manipur in mid-December 2021. When Rayunsh arrived home, he checked the surveillance footage, only to discover that the recordings from the past 10 days were missing. Angry and suspicious, he confronted Kavya. She brushed it off, claiming the cameras must have malfunctioned. Not satisfied with her explanation, Rayunsh went to the housing management the next day and requested footage from the community cameras near the gate of their house. When they showed him the recordings, his worst fears were confirmed. Over the last 10 days, different men had entered his home at various times in the afternoon and evening, staying for 2 to 3 hours before leaving. Rayunsh was sure they weren't visiting Menya. After all, she had been gone for 2 months. The only people in the house during that time were Kavya and their young children. Rayunsh came home angry and immediately confronted his wife, Kavya. He demanded answers about why the foreman, construction workers, and gardener kept stopping by their home for hours at a time. Kavya couldn't give a clear explanation. All she could do was cry and apologize. Frustrated and emotional, Rayunsh lost control and pressed his hand hard against her neck until she went limp. Terrified, Kavya managed to escape, running to the kitchen to grab a knife. When her husband approached, she panicked and lashed out, stabbing him in the chest until he collapsed. Shocked and scared, Kavya ran outside to call the neighbors for help. They quickly arrived and rushed Rayunsh to the nearest hospital. Meanwhile, Kavya called her mother, made arrangements for her children, and turned herself in to the authorities. An investigation followed. Fortunately, after nearly a week of treatment, Rayunsh survived. However, he was deeply upset and embarrassed. He discovered that rumors about his wife's behavior with the gardener and construction workers had already spread, fueled by gossip from Mira's mother, a neighbor. Rayunsh's anger wasn't just about the attack. It was also because this was the second time his wife had been unfaithful. Kavya apologized repeatedly, explaining that loneliness and Rayunsh's long absences overseas had led her to seek companionship. She admitted to forming relationships with young men, all of whom were between 24 and 30 years old and were acquaintances of their house assistant, Menya. Rayunsh reported the construction workers to the police for their involvement in inappropriate activities at his house. The investigation, which included surveillance footage and testimonies from neighbors and Kavya herself, revealed that 1 gardener and 3 construction workers had been regularly visiting. Their names were Harsh, 25, Rishabh, 24, Varun, 26, and Ishan, 24. Although they all worked in the same neighborhood, they didn't know each other as they were employed by different contractors and worked on separate projects. Menya, it seemed, had coordinated their visits so they wouldn't overlap, making the situation harder to notice. The workers claimed that Kavya had initiated the relationships, but she denied this, insisting it was the other way around. The conflicting stories complicated the case further. Kavya's lawyer argued that the stabbing was an act of self-defense, not premeditated violence. They portrayed her as a vulnerable, overwhelmed woman trying to protect herself in a moment of fear. This argument gained some traction, especially after Rayunsh admitted that his actions leading up to the incident were driven by his own emotions. Ultimately, the focus shifted toward resolving the situation, ensuring justice while considering the impact on their 2 children. In April 2022, the Manipur High Court delivered its verdict, finding Kavya guilty of self-defense-related assault. She was sentenced to a maximum of 7 years in prison, with an additional 4 months added for misconduct. Similarly, Harsh, Rishabh, Varun, and Ishan were also penalized for their involvement. Each of them received a sentence of 2 months imprisonment, served separately to ensure they weren't placed in the same cell. In the aftermath, Rayunsh had no choice but to move back home with his parents to ensure his children were cared for while he was working overseas. He expressed gratitude toward Mira's mother, whose initial gossip played a key role in exposing his wife's actions. Without her information, Rayunsh admitted the truth about Kavya's behavior might never have come to light. As for Menya, the house assistant who seemingly orchestrated much of the chaos, her whereabouts remain unknown to this day, leaving another layer of mystery to an already dramatic story. What lessons can we take from this story?